I'm Kim with Kasteel Property Management. I'm the owner and director over business development. And my key to success is to surround myself with smart people. In fact, people who are smarter than me. So that's why I've invited Adam Lancaster today. He's one of the top realtors in the nation right now. So I feel very privileged to have him. So thank you for coming, Adam.
So glad to be here.
Let's talk about what's happened in the Utah real estate market. So, things were pretty crazy in 2020 through, I think, kind of peaked in 2022. I know we were pretty excited about our home value going up, but now that's kind of relaxed, and a lot of people are saying it's more of a buyer's market right now. So what do you think's driving that?
Yeah, so across the country, if you take macro sets of data, you're going to see that we have shifted to a buyer market. There are 500,000 more buyers in the market than there are sellers. That's about 25% more buyers than sellers. And so that is kind of a strong buyer's market. That data is not necessarily true in Utah, though. Utah has continued to be relatively strong, and I'm not going to say we're in a strong seller's market like we were during COVID, but we're stronger than most markets in the country. The reason that Utah has continued to be strong, we have a net in-migration of 60,000 people per year. And that translates to about 3 people per household, or 20,000 homes, okay? We've only been building 12 to 15,000 homes in Utah for a long time. So the inventory is not improving here. And while there are lots of buyers on the sidelines waiting for interest rates or for an improved market or for improved a better position personally to buy, Utah's market has not decreased in value. It has maintained pretty flat over the last few years.
Well, that's good to hear in a lot of respects. But what kind of opportunities are you seeing right now with this kind of shift in the market?
Yeah, the biggest opportunity that we're seeing for a buyer is to consider creative terms. So what we mean by that is there are sellers who need to sell, and they're in a really good position for themselves to be able to sell on seller financing terms. Maybe 25 to 30% of our transactions last year were seller finance transactions. Seller financing may sound a little bit scary to some people, and to most of our clients, it is scary until we kind of walk through the terms, how we protect risk, what it means financially for both sides, and generally, seller financing has been and is better for both sides of the transaction.
Well, I think it makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, in the past, I've been the same as a lot of people. I was like, oh, that is so scary. That is so risky. But the more you and we've had other times to talk about this, I think it's really a great opportunity. I think it's a win-win on both ends. And the risk really can be, can be softened, mitigated.
Yeah, it can be mitigated. It's not zero.
Right.
And there are risks to consider, and it's not for everybody. I will say the other opportunity out there in the market right now is that lots of home builders, for the first time in a long, long time, it's less expensive to buy a new build than to buy a retail home.
Wow.
And most of that is driven because builders maybe overbuilt some inventory based on their absorption rates that they projected. And so they're offering some really good incentives in order for you to be able to get into a home. Sometimes those incentives are discounted interest rates, which is what everybody wants and needs right now. And we should maybe be focused a little bit less on price and a little bit more on interest rates right now. And some of those are free upgrades and other things. I saw recently one builder is offering 9% in total concessions of the total purchase price. So for a $600,000 house, I mean, almost $60,000 in free money. So that's another option to consider right now.
Yeah, it's great because I've seen and heard like a lot of buyers kind of being pushed out because they're worried about interest rates. So knowing that, hey, there's options out there and that interest rates can be bought down and then of course the seller financing can be lower. So that's great. great to hear.
The lowest we've seen on seller financing in one of the transactions we did ourselves was 2.5%, which is like the lowest it ever got in history. And so those rates are still out there.
Well, that's great. And I think because rates have been so low in the past, people are used to that. And now they're so high, but historically they really aren't.
Yeah, we're still below historical average interest rates.
So I guess my next question is, what kind of properties are really holding their value right now? Because you talked about, well, there's been ups and downs, and I'm sure there's some types of housing that has gone down in value and some that have gone up. What have you seen as far as the best investments go?
Yeah, the best investments always, it seems like they always have been and probably always will be your entry level. And the reason for that is investors always want to have properties to own to rent. It's the lowest entry price. It's the lowest rental rate. And it also happens to be the highest volume of buyers, right? And so your lowest purchase price right now is probably you can find homes in the mid 200s, like very small condos in older areas of towns. But generally you're going to see a newer, nicer build in the 450 range for, a 4-bath townhouse type of a thing, 2,500 square feet. You can find those in lots of places across the Wasatch Front. So that's really where, if you've got a property that you're going to list at that price, you're going to do just fine. There's softer places in the market, and it's interesting that it's usually like the low end and the high end of the market do very, very well, and then this squishy middle kind of struggles. We've seen that in our own listings, and it seems to be the case still now. But there will always be a market for good properties in good neighborhoods.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen our investors look more towards condos and townhomes, and I saw some statistics lately that was showing that townhomes were really increasing in value more so than even the single family residences were. And I've been talking to tenants that they're liking the fact that they don't have a yard to take care of or a roof they're going to worry about having to be replaced, and they like the amenities of having the pool and the pickleball courts. And so I think some people are moving more towards those townhomes, especially as they're just trying to get in.
Yeah. And our demographics shifting, our culture's shifting, our vision of what the American dream is shifting, and a lot of younger people feel like, why would I want a yard? Help me be free with my time and let me go experience other things rather than taking care of a big property.
Yeah, and I've heard some young people are being able to get into the market earlier by having a place that has a basement apartment, and so they can get that basement apartment rented, and that helps with rent. What are you saying?
That's probably the hottest product on the market. If you've got a single family house that has a separate rentable unit, whether that's a basement or whether that's an outbuilding, we call that an ADU, those properties fly off the shelves because it really changes your ability. You can purchase a lot more expensive property, first of all, but then second of all, your payment's going to be a lot lower because of the offsetting rent.
Right. And we've thought about too, I see a multiplex that's having a hard time getting rented, and I say, well, not rented, but getting sold. They're trying to sell a multiplex and they can't get it sold, and I'm thinking, let us fill it with tenants, and then it becomes more attractive to buyers.
For sure it does. We have a handful of multifamily properties listed, and there really is this threshold where once you get it filled up to a certain rate, the interest level from that investor base just skyrockets, because there's so much risk to taking on a property without it being rented. Right. You really don't know what those rent rates will be until you have the renters themselves.
Right. Yeah. And, one thing that people who are looking at that option should consider is that when you sign up renters, almost invariably you're going to give them a 1-year contract. And so the fear is if, a buyer comes in, the 1-year contract isn't with them, it's with the seller. And so I think, they've got to be able to work out either the buyer needs to be willing to kind of buy out the seller's contract with the property management company, or be willing to sign a new year-long contract. And so I don't know, what have you seen in regards to that?
Probably one of the most misunderstood terms or legal terms in real estate is that, renters themselves start to freak out when they hear that their property is going to be sold.
Yeah.
They don't know that a rental contract supersedes a sale contract. That rent contract has to stay in place, and any new buyer has to honor it. And then conversely, the buyer wants to know that those contracts are going to be good. And so a phrase that you're familiar with is the estoppel certificate. You go get this certificate signed with the renters that says, yes, all of these agreements are real and we do want to honor them and we intend on honoring them. And so there's, again, as we talk about risk and mitigating risk, there's risk in all of these things, but when you hire professionals like yourself, there are ways to mitigate that risk and make sure that the buyer or the investor is in a good position.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Adam, for coming today. I really appreciate your expertise, and it's given myself a lot to think about. And so thank you again. Check us out on our website, KasteelProperty.com. You can find more videos and blogs. And if you want to check out Adam, you can go to Instagram at _Adam Lancaster. Thanks again.